What's up, guys? I just want to do a little quick recap on the Conor McGregor Dustin Porier fight. So, Conor McGregor broke his tibia or his fibia. His leg basically snapped, and they showed the replay, and they both threw across, him and Dustin, and they both missed. And when Conor stepped back on his foot, it just snapped, kind of like Chris Weidman and Anderson Silva, their leg breaks, kind of eerily similar. But everybody was kind of shitting on Conor McGregor after this, but I mean, they made a cool meme, and they showed Conor after his leg broke, and he was just angry and pissed off and still talking shit to Dustin, and just kind of shows that fire that he's got inside him, inside his soul. And then it kind of, I mean, obviously he still went out on the stretcher, but then those other guys that happened to, you didn't see them doing interviews after. That was kind of the whole point. Like, Conor's kind of his own man, and he's an emotional guy, and he's saying that he had a stress fracture. He was having problems with his ankle for leading up to the fight. He was having to tape it and having issues with it, and he was saying that's how he developed a good bottom game, throwing the elbows from the bottom, the up kicks. So, I mean, I don't know how much you can practice that in training without really hurting your sparring partners, but yeah, I mean, his bottom game did look pretty good, but it's hard to kind of tell because they showed in the video one of the kicks right before, his ankle kind of like broke in half or snapped or whatever you want to call it, that he kicked Dustin in the leg, and it looked like it moved a little bit when he kicked Dustin. So some people are thinking, maybe it was just the bone on bone, and maybe Dustin had a stronger bone, or maybe it was a pre-existing condition with Conor's ankle/leg leading up to the fight. But he just posted on his Instagram that his surgery went well, and he's going to have basically a titanium rod going through his leg, so it's going to should grow back stronger. But at the end of the day, Conor is still the biggest draw in mixed martial arts, and he's right up there with the biggest draw in boxing too. He's not even a boxer, but it said he got like 23 million for this fight. That's probably not including all the sponsorships and everything else that comes with a huge fight like that, like the pay-per-view. And Dustin Poirier got 5 million. So, I mean, they can hate on Conor all they want, but Dustin Poirier is not going to get that big of a payday with anybody else, or that big of a spotlight with anybody else. So when Conor says, "You guys need me," he's right, because nobody brings more attention to the sport than Conor McGregor. As far as his fighting, I mean, I've never been in the cage myself. I train a little bit of jiu-jitsu, but just from what I see as like kind of a casual fan watching, I mean, he's had some tough fights, and I respect him for getting in there with guys like Porier, because Conor can make millions he can pick any opponent and make millions against him. So the fact that he's still taking these top tier fighters in MMA, which historically MMA is kind of a sport where you win one then lose one, and UFC, if you're in the top 10, you're fighting the top dogs. So it's not like boxing where you can kind of cherry pick your opponents. No, if you're in the UFC, you're kind of on murderer's row in that 155 and up. I mean, every division in the UFC is tough now, but I mean, the 155 division is notoriously deep, and there's a lot of good fighters in there. And Conor really hasn't fought too much since 2016 in MMA, but yeah, he hasn't really had a lot of wins He's had some tough fights. Porier is just a really durable guy. He's kind of coming into his own right now. They're both about 32, 33, but Poirier's been active, so that's just been a tough fight for him. Like, Conor, he's obviously still got power. He's kind of always had an issue with his stamina, but you can tell that he's training more endurance now based off his McGregor Fast program and his Instagram posts. He's on the bike more, he's running. But I don't know, I respect him for still getting in there. You know, he definitely doesn't need to fight anymore, especially he doesn't need to fight against these top guys, and he's willing to risk a lot and he's taken a lot of flack after, and he seems to, you know, kind of stay positive and do his own thing. So I mean, everybody's shitting on Conor McGregor. You got to respect the man going in there against guys like Dustin Porier still. But yeah, I mean, Dustin is probably going to fight for the title now against Charles Oliveira, and after that we'll see what happens. I'm guessing Conor's going to be out for a while, not only just rehabbing. After you're rehabbing, you can't be training during that time. So I think Dustin Porier will fight Charles Oliveira, and he'll probably win. And then we'll see what happens from there. Maybe Conor goes back in there with Nate Diaz, or maybe they give him the rematch against Porier for the title. Who knows? But I just kind of wanted to give my thoughts on that, and it was a good fight. Sean O'Malley also fought on that card against Chris Montunio. There was some 9-5 fighter who's basically a short notice replacement, and everybody was kind of giving Sean O'Malley shit for not fighting a top ranked opponent. But if his opponent pulls out, that's not really his fault. And also, he was saying on his YouTube that he's not even a top 10 or top 15 fighter in the rankings. So why is he getting so much shit for not taking a top 15 fighter? Well, he's not even a top 15 to begin with. But I thought he looked super fast. That other guy, Chris Montunio, was tough as hell, but he was just peppering him up, and I guess he landed like the most significant strikes in bantamweight history. So everyone was saying, oh, this is what is this going to do for Sean O'Malley fighting a first-time UFC fighter? Well, you fight on a Conor McGregor card, that's a huge stage, and Conor we may see Conor fight again, we may not, we probably will, but he only fights so often now. So if you can get on one of those big cards, the magnitude of that event and the eyes that are going to be watching you, it's just going to be way bigger than any other fight. So I mean, he kind of showed out. Even that Chris Montunio guy, he was on a big stage. They both won $75,000 fight of the night. So I mean, I think that was a win for both of them. So I would have to guess that they'll probably give Chris Montunio another UFC bout, because usually they're kind of good to the guys that step up as a late replacement. And I mean, if you don't get finished and you're entertaining and you come to fight like he did, they'll reward you by giving you another chance. But yeah, I mean, Sean O'Malley, to me, he kind of looks like the next. I mean, he's not going to be as big as Conor McGregor, but he's fast. He's special. And he's kind of doing the same thing Conor was on his come up in 2013 to 14, where he's like calling his fights and he's going out there and he's putting on big performances. So yeah, just kind of wanted to talk about those two guys. And yeah, I think Sugar Sean O'Malley's the future in the 135, 145 division. We'll see if he can get that belt in the next 5 fights. Okay, thanks guys. Just want to share my thoughts. Take it easy.